Contemplation looks like this. So this is the practice. In the morning, you spend about 15 minutes surveying the landscape of your relationships with your close people, your family, friends, then from there business colleagues, then from there other people. You just survey it. And you say to yourself, how am I in this relationship? Am I clean? And then you look at your own ego, the places that you go to that cause suffering. So you say, have I been overly judgmental? Have I been critical? Have I condemned? Have I created conflict? How am I in my relationships? Because you see, your relationships are your mirrors to teach you how to be a human being. And once you know this, your soul can travel over the river Jordan and get to the other side and merge with your consciousness. But you can't cross the river until you know the river. So you ask, you look. You may see a landmine, in which case you know you have a lot of work to do and you can't do it all at once. So you start working one relationship after another, starting with that which is most close to your intimate, the person, people, and the closest to you. Then you ask yourself, have I supported these people, a person? Have I listened to them? Now this is really important because nobody listens. Have I listened to what their needs are, their wants are? Now it doesn't mean you have to give somebody what they want or what they think they need. It doesn't mean you have to do it. But you have to, did you listen? And then did you make a truthful response? Perhaps the way you handle when you're feeling fearful or lost or afraid, perhaps the way you handle it is you lash out and get angry. In your period of contemplation, this is where you ask the question, how do I handle situations where I am uncomfortable? You look at your relationships, you say, am I allowing the people around me to be who they are? Or am I controlling them, trying to control? Is God bringing turns and bringing things for me to see and I don't want to see it? I'm grasping, I'm trying to control. Am I doing that? You just watch it. You look and see, well, if this situation here caused me angst, anxiety, fear, grief, those are the ones you look at. Like, what's this feeling that comes up, or this emotion, or I want to turn away, or I want to not look at that. The place you don't want to look at, of course, is where you need to be looking. That's the mirror for you to know what part of the ego you need to dismantle. You need to pour light into, or pour love into. Am I using? So maybe you're one of those people that tries to please everybody. Give everybody else what they want. And at the end of the day, you're empty because you didn't take care of yourself. Those are those special selfless service people. And then when you've done a lot of selfless service and there's nothing coming in, you will get angry. You will blow up. Because eventually you'll be empty. So when you look at your relationships, you've got to put yourself there too. You've got to put yourself in that room. How is your relationship with yourself? What are your needs and wants? But then you have to be really ruthless. This is where you have to be very not critical, but you have to be ruthless investigation. Because you have to say, now, this want that I think I want, where's that coming from? You have to do that. Is that coming from my ego? Or is that coming from another source? How does that want to affect other people? Is that causing other people harm? You may want more money and I'll rob a bank, but you're harming people. So that want isn't coming from a higher state. Now you may see I have a need and a want. You may work it through and go, well, that's realistic. It's realistic to want love. So let's say, well, I want love. I need more love. I need people to love me. You look at it and say, well, gosh, maybe if I don't feel there are people around me loving me, maybe that's because I'm not lovable. Then you have to be really honest and look at yourself and say, well, am I behaving in such a way that people will want to love me? Or do I push people away? Do I practice being somebody that's hard to love? And if you are in a practice of being hard to love, eventually people will move away, and not because they want to, but their need is love too. And it's hard to be around somebody who's, Mr. Grumpy Pants all the time, or Miss Grumpy Pants, Miss Complainer, or someone criticizing all the time. So you have to be honest and say, well, what are my actions? How do I act? How do I behave? You got to ruthlessly investigate. And then you have to honestly and ruthlessly go, wow, okay, I have a place in me that does this and this and this. Now, this is where people stop. This is why I know people don't do the work. It's hard to do this work. When you see the place in you that is a, kind of a non-virtue or a character flaw, not in keeping with character, and we all have these places. So that's what I said, don't think nobody has them. We all have them. What happens when you see that place in yourself? Shame will come up. You'll feel shame. Shame for the ego is intolerable. Now listen carefully. Shame for the ego is intolerable. It is the pain. The greatest pain of the ego is shame. And the ego starts to go crazy. And this part of spiritual practice is the hard part that very few people make it through and make it to the mountaintop. Because when you see that part of yourself that is non-virtuous, and you were really honest and you go, whoa, I was like, look what I did. Oh my God, I'm looking at it. Because see, we tend to go in denial about our behaviors. We go to sleep. And we wonder why there's, all kinds of pain and suffering around. Because we deny our place in it. That goes for those that are active and like persecute, and those who are victims and just swallow it and don't speak up. You don't say, stop, you can't treat me like that. No, I refuse. So it's a two-sided sword here, okay? Where you stop at this spiritual practice is it shame. Because shame is intolerable and it's a heat. And if you can just sit in the shame and feel the heat, you will feel your body heat up. Your body will start to heat up. Now, what's just happened? When you are feeling that shame, if you're healthy, if you're not a sociopath without a conscious, that's a whole nother story that we're just not even going to get into here about consciousness. You will have remorse. This is the second feeling that is intolerable to the ego. And at this point, in 90% of the people, when that shame and remorse comes up, the ego mechanism is so locked in and locked and loaded that unconsciously people batten up the hatches, build this giant monster. What do you call it? Transformers? You know those movies, the Transformers? It's a little person inside with the big machine walking and killing aliens thousands at a time. And the little person who's manning it could, of course, never do that. Well, I mean, that's right there. That's what we do. We create this machine to protect how fragile we are. Really fragile. You know, a little person in front of the sentinels drilling down into Zion. I mean, you are fragile. But when you get in one of those transformers, you know, hey, bring it on. Right? That's what we do. Kind of all puffed up. You want to fight? Come on, let's fight. I'm going to fight. So that place, if you can just practice beginning contemplation like this, and when you stumble upon shame, because it'll come up, and hopefully if you're healthy, some remorse, if you can just say to yourself, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to be strong, I'm just going to sit in my shame, and I'm going to sit in my remorse. I'm just going to sit here for 5 minutes and breathe through it and pray. And pray to God. To say, God, help me with this. Help me to heal this in myself and help me to make a better choice. I want to be a better man, a better woman. Help me, God.